storm show. Ay, it's a storm show.
Give us a definition of what the Black male worshiping culture is.
So look, it took me a while to realize what this was, and I actually woke up one morning with Black male worship. I was operating in Black male worship a lot of my life, and you know, by the cultural design, you're going to fall, just like the cultural design says per Jane Elliott, if you are white, you're racist. Mm-hmm. If you are a Black woman, you are a Black male worshiper. You've worshipped Black men at some point in your life. And I think when we think about worship, we think about going to church and singing praises and getting filled with the Holy Ghost. And that's not what worship means. Worship just means you have a great amount of respect and admiration and reverence from someone. Now, you can praise the way that they do in church, but our culture is designed for the worship of Black men. We put Black male issues at the forefront. Actually, the only people with issues we focus on is Black male issues. Everyone is hypersensitive to what Black men go through. Even when I was talking about white supremacy on here, I never talked about how it affected Black women. I was mostly focused on how it affected Black men. Because when we think about systemic issues, we think about it happening to Black men. When we think about slavery, we think about it happening to Black men. We don't focus on anything that happened to Black women. There are many Black men who I've heard say that Black women don't have a plight. Black women don't go through anything, and we go through more than we do. I've heard them say that. So we're socialized as Black women to cater to Black men, to be Black men's ride or die, to vie for their attention, to basically train ourselves and prepare to compete as if we're winning a prize. And that's not something that Black men are conditioned to do in return to Black women. We're told that in order for us to be valid as women, we need to do whatever we can to get a man, basically get a Black man. That's your mission. Get a Black man, get him to give you that stamp of approval, which is the marriage. Go through long suffering for him. It doesn't matter if he's cheating on you or lying to you. This is just what Black men do, and you have to earn your man. So yeah. I'm heavily focused around the worship of Black men. I do really believe this, and it's undue worship.
I mean, my thing is this too, like, you know, people are online now and everybody's throwing around the word submissive. First off, you have to give a woman something to submit to. Like, that's the part they always miss. Like, if you are that man, she's gonna naturally want to be in that role. But and Nicole, I interviewed her yesterday. She disagreed. I just don't believe there's a lot of them out there that's worth submitting to.
Yeah, you know, she's actually a good example of what I'm talking about, because I listened to part of that too, like specifically the part where you said that you feel like there's a deficit of masculinity in the community. And she said she feels like most Black men are alpha males, but I paid attention to what she described as an alpha male. And even based off what she described as an alpha male, most Black men wouldn't fit that. And I think that's what she did, what was typical of Black women to do, which is go to the Black men that are in close proximity to them, their family members, the ones that they've personally dealt with. But it's like we're talking about a community, a collective group of men. And they are not alpha males. Most Black men do seem to want to rest in their femininity. They're not really embracing manhood and masculinity. And in fact, some publicly shun it. They say, I don't want this version of manhood. I didn't sign up for this. There's nothing in them that wants to be providers or protectors or warriors or really anything. And I bet you if you were to ask her, the question that I posed to my subscribers, which was, what actions do Black men engage in that even shows that they like Black women as a group? I don't think she would have been able to come up with an example.
I think she would have, because what I heard her say too was, well, based on my experiences, I've always had, and it's like, you can't just, like you just said, you can't just go off of what you've dated because you're only one person. Like, as a whole, and I even told her to her face, like, most of us, we ain't had no daddies. So how do so we ain't had nobody to learn manhood from. And so when you see that generation after generation after generation, I always make the joke like, who are y'all gonna date? Because it ain't that many real men out here.
No.
They didn't even have a chance to learn manhood. So how the fuck do you learn manhood in your 40s? When now you done had kids, you done fucked over a bunch of women. Like what do you do?
Well, most Black women do that. Most Black women can't give an example of what Black men as a group are doing. And I think they know they can't. That's why they automatically go to their personal experiences, because they want to say, well, I didn't experience this. And it's like, yeah, but maybe the 5, 20, maybe 50 Black men that you've encountered in your life can't speak for 21 million of them in this country. Now, we know most Black people are foreign. They're not in the US. So, I mean, the thing is, it's like your interpersonal experience doesn't blanket the collective. And I find that Black men don't have that issue. They don't have an issue separating the Black women in their personal lives from the collective of Black women. But Black women struggle with that.
Yeah. I mean, she, and don't get me wrong. I mean, if that's how she feels, that's her perspective. And I allowed her to have that because I'm not a woman, but I was just trying to get her to understand that for the majority of us, we have no way to even be a man for y'all because it was never shown to us. And then you just times that by whatever fucking generation, it's like, sis, yeah, it's a lack out here. And so how do you feel about the masculine title that a lot of Black women are labeled with? I think there's too many feminine men.
Mm-hmm.
And so you ain't got no choice but to step up and do what you got to do. Niggas don't know how to change oil. They don't know how to fix stuff around the house, but they'll tell you to go cook, but don't know how to fix them around the house. Won't cut no grass. Won't even stick around after you have his baby.
No.
Like, a nigga can't even take an argument. He packing up his shit and leaving. Like it's no, seriously. I go out in public. You see him at McDonald's. Homeboy got his hand in her back pocket, means she's paying. You know what I mean? Like she pumping gas. He in the
Well, I will say this. I don't think that Black women have the expectation of masculinity and manhood from Black men because we don't know what it is. We've never experienced Black men operating as men, and from a point of manhood, we've never experienced that in this country. And so I think that Black women don't know what masculinity is. I think we don't know what manhood is. And I think that for any Black woman to say that we're not dealing with the issue of masculinity, I think that right there in and of itself is Black male worship. Black men can apparently do no wrong in the community. No matter what he does or what they do as a group, they deserve advocacy. No matter how disloyal they are, they deserve loyalty. She sat up there and she literally was a living example of how Black women operate as if obtaining a Black man is obtaining a prize. Although what you're winning, other than his physical appearance, which that may even be temporary, what you're winning can't really be quantified. And so I think that the way that Black men act is understandable given the culture that they're raised in. We act like Black men are a prize. We act like they are.
And I will say for her, since she had her dad and she grew up with her dad, I think her vision is a little skewed, but I almost want her to just talk to your friends. But
if she can't separate her dad from the collective of Black men, then her thought process is very problematic. And that's why I said, Black women have been collecting L's for a very long time and still are, because there's no balance at all. All of the power and control is given to Black men. All of the degradation and disempowerment is given to Black women. And other Black women reinforce this as well, because many Black women are comfortable with this dynamic, number one. And number two, we've been conditioned mostly by Black men to believe that we have no desirability to other groups of men, because Black men have been the mouthpiece for primarily white men for so long. To where Black women, I think that most Black women really do believe that the only option they have is Black men. And that's why I liken the dynamic to a DV relationship. It really is a DV dynamic between Black men and Black women as a collective group.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Because I definitely would say, no, you can definitely get a man of another race if you want. Like that's
easy.
Men like
Right.
women. Men like women. So you know, if they're straight. So no, you're good on that. Let me see what question I want to go to next. Dang, we could talk about that for hours. Like
this is a DV situation. It really is. Like even if you look at the cycle of it, and I guess you could replace gifts and certain things for, you know, temporary acts of validation, where you may have a Black male celebrity who will, you know, throw out a compliment to Black women. I guess in the cycle, the DV cycle, that could be the reward reinforcement after they beat you down or break you down and tell you you're worthless and nobody likes you. Yeah. Then they'll do certain little things that draws Black women back in and make Black women feel as if there's some kind of love there when there really isn't. There's no reason for Black men to love Black women, given the dynamic that we have in this culture. There's no way Black men will love Black women.
Wow. Damn.
There's no way they would.
And you know what, as you were saying that, and you mentioned celebrities, I'm thinking of Nick Cannon. I'm thinking of Michael B. Jordan. I'm thinking even of like the baby, this situation that just went on. You know, it's like, just because he comes back around and, oh, okay, I'm gonna give you a baby now. Like, no, sis, that's just not good enough. Okay.
And we tolerate it. And we tolerate it. That's why when I think about it, and I'm thinking about what reason would Black men have for actually loving Black women, given that love isn't something that's just given. Love is earned.
Yeah.
And love isn't earned by just giving someone undue praise and worship. That's the way that you get a lack of appreciation. That's the way you get taken advantage of. That's the way you get abused. And
what is love? Because I don't know. What is
love? Is an action. It is an action. And I think that that's the one thing that's not connecting to Black women. It's an action. It's a verb. It's what you do. You can visibly see what love looks like. And it's expressed through behaviors. And there isn't any behaviors that Black men engage in that indicates love as a group. Now, on an individual level, yeah, there's some of them who may be able to express love by their behaviors. As a group, no, there's no behavior that Black men are engaging in to even show that they like Black women. In fact, they verbalize the exact opposite, and they behave like they don't like or love Black women. And so, and quite frankly, the culture isn't conducive to Black men loving Black women. It's conducive to Black men abusing Black women. And that's what we get: abuse and exploitation.
Damn. And even as I'm sitting here, you know, thinking too, you know, this year I learned the word featurist. I didn't really realize that was a thing. And even growing up, a lot of things that I heard my grandma say, mom say, grandma say, aunts and stuff say, I'm like, wow, like y'all are featurists, like, or texturists, or like, you know, like, oh yeah, you know, be with somebody that's Black just as long as they don't have X, Y, Z. And I'm like, well, that kind of comes with most people that are Black. So you want me to find the one Black person that don't have, you know, it's sad.
Yeah,
it's self-hate being passed from generation to generation.
It is. And the problem with the self-hatred and the reason it keeps being perpetuated is because it's not accepted that what Black men are doing is a manifestation of self-hatred. That's not being attached to his actions. Like when a person like Nick Cannon, you see the women that he's procreated with and how his children are children that does not look like him. There's this delusional nonsense that's also a part of the Black male worship, that Black men carry this dominant seed and can create Blackness wherever he goes. To even say that is so demeaning and degrading to Black women, but Black women don't recognize it as demeaning and degrading for you to accept the notion that you are simply a womb, and the real people who are birthing Blackness and creating Blackness is the Black man who can't even give birth to anything, not even himself. And so I think there's so many different concepts that we accept, and not just as Black women, as women as a whole, but we're going to talk about Black women, because I've only heard this seed of the father thing happening among the Black community. I never hear it outside of the Black community. And I lived in Washington, where it's mostly white. And so
if you got a Black parent and a white parent, I'm gonna call you mixed. All of this, you are what your daddy is, and
yeah, those are religious concepts, though. Like biology and even some state laws says you are the race of your mother. In Washington, with one of them, if you are a biracial person and your mother is white, you are white. And that is what you have to classify as. This is something that was even confirmed by Rachel Dolezal in her documentary, because she's Spokane. She lives in Washington. And she said when her children were born, even though they have a Black father, she was required to select their race as white because she is white and they're coming from her. And so in every religion except Judaism, because Judaism says you are what your mother is as well. Yes, you're not a Jew if your mother isn't a Jew.
That's why Drake is Jewish. Yes.
Yeah, that's you become it through your mother. But in every other Abrahamic religion that Black people tend to attach themselves to, you're the seed of your father, and men don't carry seeds. Like, this baby is literally being grown and developed in her womb and nurtured. Yet we allow this to be something that Black men are doing. A child isn't born from the mother's womb with the father's hormonal system. It's with the mother's.
Yeah.
Most often you're going to get your blood type from your mother. You're going to get your immune system from your mother. So these things are not like, none of these are coming from the father. They're coming from the mother. But we still in our community, they'll say, oh, well, lovely Mimi, that Asian woman, her child is Black. So it's basically saying
her child is mixed. Her child is mixed.
Yeah. Well, but a lot of Black people will say Kim Kardashian's children are Black. And it's like, no, they're not. You're saying that a white woman can give birth to a Black child the same as a Black woman can. But when I say stop giving birth to Black males, then all of a sudden you're creating genocide. No.
we got to talk about that too, because when I tell you, I have never seen so many men like with their panties in a bunch.
It's Storm Show. Ay, it's a Storm Show.